Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, a horrific scene in Rhode Island, as now police have identified the gunman who killed 2 people and injured 3 others at a high school hockey game in Rhode Island. Turns out somebody said it is the 56-year-old father who shot family members and a family friend before he turned the gun on himself after that deadly rampage at the Pawtucket, Rhode Island ice rink. Turns out the father's name was Robert Dorgan, but he also revealed that he went by a female name of Roberta Dorgan. So clearly there were some interesting issues going on with the father. And we've seen a couple of these cases of late. Were those with sexual identity issues turning the gun on others. And in this case, the father dressing up as a woman in a lot of cases, changing his name in some cases as Roberta, suddenly opening fire on his family members at a hockey game in Rhode Island. And it sadly follows the pattern of other shootings of late with those with gender dysphoria. Very interesting and very terrible and tragic case. We don't know what kind of medicines or what other things he may have been on or psychological issues, but a very, very sad story there coming out of Rhode Island. Meantime, as we're talking also about the Nancy Guthrie case here on the Rita Cosby Show, just a little bit ago, they started putting up a helicopter and also drones, because they said that this is interesting, the forensics of this case and the electronics of this case, the cyber aspects, where they're looking to see, okay, how can they connect? First of all, they found that footage from the doorbell Ring camera. Remember, that was removed. There's reports that they're looking for more of it because surely there's got to be more footage out there. And apparently Google is working with Nest because there were other cameras that also were probably getting some data. So can they retrieve that data as well? That would be obviously very, very helpful. And then in addition to all of that, now they're trying to track down the pacemaker tied to Nancy Guthrie, because everybody's pacemaker puts off a distinct sort of, a signal, if you will. And they are using sort of Bluetooth technology and other stuff, using drones and low-flying helicopters, because you have to be within 15 to 20 feet of it, where you could actually detect the ping, that specific ping, because there's probably a lot of people in Tucson, a big retirement community, that may have pacemakers. But they're saying in this particular case, the stakes are obviously so high, and there are ways to trace and figure out if that is the pacemaker belonging to Nancy Guthrie. And hopefully she is alive. So there are still so many questions tonight. The sheriff on the burglary theory also telling a local media it did not come from us. So the sheriff signaling that it probably wasn't a burglary, this case. Why isn't he saying whether there was forced entry or not? We're going to get to Joaquin in a moment, because Joaquin, you made some great points. But first, here is Morgan Wright. He's the founder of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases, and he's talking about how they can connect the maybe pacemaker, and also there was a glove that was found 2 miles away from the house. They're testing that for DNA, putting it in a database to see if they can locate whose DNA that is, and could this be tied to the case too? Take a listen.
I look at it from the eyes through a detective first, say behaviorally, what does it tell me? Well, the person is very comfortable being where they're at. what does comfort tell you? It's that they don't expect to be caught, that they maybe are familiar with the terrain, or they have a way they know to escape the area, exfil from the area quickly. Now, what we don't know, and this is where the importance of the pacemaker is so vital. That's the best unbiased witness we have right now, which is at 2:10 when that pacemaker pinged. Did it show normal heartbeat like she normally has? Did it show she was in distress? Or did the telemetry show there was no heartbeat? And then that gives us an idea based on what happened in the timing. So yeah, to your point, why would it happen? There's most people that when they commit property crimes, you'll see burglaries during the day. They do it because it's low risk for them. They don't want anybody home. We've seen high-profile athletes have their homes broken into. Why do they do that? Because they know they're at the Super Bowl or they know they're at a game. In this case, there's a confrontation. We don't know what started the confrontation, and this gets into why the sheriff said there was DNA found inside the house, but it was not blood. So that gets you to lead. Was there a confrontation where the mask was pulled off, the ski mask was pulled off and hair fell down, and that's the foreign DNA that we're looking at. So then you ask, why would they happen? There's one hypothesis is that once she pulled the mask off, she could see him, and he was scared that she would recognize him. And then maybe she was alive when they came out, and that's why they did it. Look, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but if you follow the facts and follow the blood trail, we know that the blood came out on the front porch down 2 steps, but the blood stopped at the end. So at some point, we know we're introducing a vehicle into it. Then the vehicle introduces a question: is there another person?
Very interesting how they're triangulating everything tied in this case. And also, this comes up as Harvey Levin with TMZ got a 4th letter today, and he went on the media describing what was in that letter. We don't know. Harvey doesn't know if the letter is legitimate or not, but it certainly had some interesting clues about the case. Take a listen to this.
It is Monday morning. We have received a 4th letter from the same person who says that he knows where Nancy Guthrie is, and he wants money in return for the information. Essentially, he wants the reward. So I have something to say to you, and I've already talked to the FBI about this, that if you are not real, you're committing a crime, and you should know that. And this is a serious federal crime. If you are real, this is the 4th letter you've sent, and I should tell everybody that in this letter, it says, I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up, so I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them. This is the 2nd time he has referred to more than one person involved in this. He said there is a main person and there are others, and he said it here. He is saying that Nancy was taken to Mexico. Now, this is what he's saying. I'm not going to vouch for him, but this is the 4th letter. We have sent them all on to the FBI. And he also says one of the reasons he's worried about coming forward is he has a record. He has a burglary on his record from 10 years ago. So I don't know if you're real or not, if you're watching this. But if you are, and I have told the FBI that we're going to do this, they know this, that if you're worried about getting this money, and you really do have this information, send it to us. You're sending us these letters. Send it to us. We will forward it to the FBI. And that way there's a record that we have that you supplied this information. If they find her and they find the kidnapper, then at least there is evidence, because we have it, that you're the one who provided the information. So this is a way for you to get that money if this really is legitimate. Send us the information. We will pass it on to the FBI.
Very interesting. And why does this person, especially if they turn out to be legit, and again, we don't know that, but why are they reaching out to TMZ? And I thought it was interesting that this individual is referring to south of the border, and Nancy was with them. If it's true, boy, that should pinpoint, obviously, some options of where Nancy Guthrie could be. And you don't know. It could be a needle in a haystack. It could be bogus, but it's certainly worth looking at just in case it's accurate. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 1. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Yes, Rita. So anyway, actually, how is your security? I hope it's good.
Yes, it is, and I hope yours is too, my friend.
Yes.
By the way,
yes,
this is a wake-up call, especially for people who have elderly relatives. Who are living alone. And just making sure that they have great security. That's really important.
It makes no sense. I mean, you're talking to a person who obviously is well-to-do and unfortunately, is living in an estate, in a home that shows obvious affluence and is connected to a celebrity, And so it really surprises me that her security was really so lax that it was just a couple of cameras. And it really brings me back to, my wife took care of a blind couple on Long Island back in high school, and into after we were married. And they were both blind. And you know what they had? They had a Doberman Pinscher that was actually professionally trained, to basically watch over them, to be their security. And they would come every couple months, and, the guys would come with their padded suits and make sure that he was aggressive enough when it needed to be and that he was well trained. And you think in a situation like that, the people who can afford it, they would take advantage of something like this. And it's still, the point I made before you had to go on break was it disturbs me a bit that you're dropping an 84-year-old person off and you're waiting for the garage door to open and close for them to go inside. That just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, what's interesting, what I thought about too after you brought that up, Joaquin, because a lot of people enter through garage doors versus the regular doors. So that to me isn't so odd, that part. But what is odd is she apparently was pretty immobile. Remember, they said that she couldn't really, walk, but a few yards by herself. So if that's the case, wouldn't somebody have walked her in? I mean, I don't think you just kind of say, hey, see ya, and then they happen to go inside on their own. If somebody is pretty immobile, wouldn't you walk that person in, make sure that they're inside okay, settled in, taken good care of, and then leave? Which is why, again, not pointing to the family whatsoever, but there's something odd here. Because why don't we know that there's forced entry or not? Did somebody accidentally leave a door open when they left? They seem to keep saying, we're not going to tell you whether there was forced entry or not. And when there was a report that there was forced entry, they said, we didn't say that. So if that's the case, if there was no forced entry, did somebody leave through a door and forget to lock it? Or did somebody watch that individual leave? And somehow figure out a way to get inside. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have happened. What are your thoughts about that? It is interesting because why would you wouldn't just drop an elderly person and say, see ya, and leave, right? Especially if it's your mother.
That's the part that actually kind of bothers me. And like you say, you don't want to cast, any kind of dispersions on anyone in particular, I guess, and it's a terrible thing. And maybe you don't want to make somebody feel guilty, but it's a question that kind of needs to be answered because at least when I look at it, it makes no sense to me at all whatsoever.
Well, and it goes to the heart of the case, too, because how did they get inside? You see a masked person showing up. Was the door open? Was the side door open? Was somebody maybe watching somebody drop her off and seeing a way that seemed to be easy to get in and out? There could be something completely unbeknownst to somebody who was dropping her off, too, that maybe somebody was on the lookout all that time. You don't know.
And, the guys that go into the front door, when they show the pictures of the blood, drops on the ground. Yep. You can't get a good sight of it, but it almost doesn't look like the front door was broken in from what you can look at. I mean, the side lights don't seem to be broken.
Exactly.
So that's another
Joaquin,
thing.
Exactly. Everyone's been saying that it doesn't look like there was a break-in on the front door. So was there damage on the garage? We haven't heard that. Did they come through a side door? Did they come through the back door? Did they come through the front door? Did they know where a key was hidden? You know, if it was someone who maybe worked for her or was watching somebody drop somebody off, and maybe saw them lock the door after they left. You know, I mean, there's who could have done that. I mean, there's, you know, or knew the front door wasn't locked properly. Who knows, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. There's more to the story there, Joaquin. 100%. There's something odd. You don't just drop somebody off. And there's something when you heard that this person was, you know, couldn't walk, you know, barely a few feet by herself. So you don't just go, hey, see ya. And it's dark at night there too. I mean, there's a lot of things that are still just unknown. We don't know. It may not be anything nefarious whatsoever. It's just an unknown, and we need to get answers because maybe it could provide some clues too. And most importantly, bring Nancy Guthrie home. 1-800-848-9222. We're going to continue your calls, everybody. Boy, Joaquin piqued our interest. There's no doubt about that.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And a lot of new details in the Nancy Guthrie case. As I mentioned, that 4th letter coming to TMZ. And also, they are looking to see if there is a DNA match that they can put in the database. Apparently, some DNA was retrieved on a glove that was found 2 miles away from the Nancy Guthrie house. It's unclear if it's related. They're also trying to track down where the rest of these items were purchased, potentially at a Walmart. We know that for sure. The backpack is a Walmart brand, typically sold only at Walmart, but it could be elsewhere. And what about also the ski mask and all those things? You put it in a database and say, who bought all these items? If you can ID what kind of items they are, you would imagine you'd be able to pretty much put it together, hopefully, who the purchaser was. It seemed like there was a flurry of activity on Friday, and then suddenly, kapoof, then it was like, nope, okay, we detained these people. They're released. Let's go to Nick in Virginia, line 5. Go ahead, Nick, your thoughts tonight.
Yeah, Rita, you and Joaquin kind of ate a piece of my pie, but no matter how the Nancy Guthrie saga turns out, you know, let it be a lesson to us all that if you live alone, there's 3 things you should own: a dog, a gun, and a safe room to run. And also, I have to make a comment about Chuck Schumer. You know, he's the loudest Democrat to cry about requiring IDs for voting.
Yeah, no, and by the way, how do you like him keep saying Jim Crow 2.0? I mean, he was doing that through the weekend. That's ridiculous.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And Nick from Virginia was just talking about Chuck Schumer and a lot of his comments tied to the voter ID bill. Of course, that passed in the House, But now Chuck Schumer is saying that he's going to fight it every step of the way when it gets to the Senate. Listen to what he said over the weekend. I mean, who is fighting against voter ID? Voter ID, so you are self-identified clearly through paperwork, not just on your own words, but also you have to bring forward documentation to show, yes, you are registered to vote, that you are truly a citizen of the United States of America. And then when you actually go vote, you have to show a photo ID. Who would be against that? Well, it seems like all the Democrats in the Senate, pretty much, except for one, are. And I can tell you, Chuck Schumer certainly is. Listen to what he said over the weekend.
About 83% of the American people, including majority Democrats, support voter ID laws.
Yeah, the voter ID laws that, first, each state can have its own voter ID laws, and some do and some don't. But secondly, what they are proposing in this so-called SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0. They make it so hard to get any kind of voter ID that more than 20 million legitimate people, mainly poorer people and people of color, will not be able to vote under this law. We will not let it pass in the Senate. We are fighting it tooth and nail. It's an outrageous proposal that is, that shows the sort of political bias of the MAGA right. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote because they often don't vote for them.
That's an amazing statement. It's so ridiculous that even John Fetterman, a fellow Democrat who seems to be the voice of reason, by the way, lately in the Democratic Party, came out and said, this is preposterous.
It's not like a radical idea. It's not something, and there already are many states that show basic ID. So that's where we are in the Senate. So I would never refer to the SAVE Act as like Jim Crow 2.0 or some kinds of conspiracy. But that's part of the debate that we were having here in the Senate right now, and I don't call people names or imply that it's some kinds of things, something gross about the terrible history of like Jim Crow.
So you're not there on the Save America Act specifically just yet, but you're there on the principle of voter ID. Is that what I'm hearing?
What I'm saying, though, that states, whether it's like Georgia or other states, you have ID to vote. That's not a radical idea. Now, some people can agree or disagree on that, but it is not a radical idea. And many, many states already do that. And Wisconsin already ratified that in their constitution. Wisconsin elected a very liberal justice, and now almost 2-1, they voted to produce ID to vote and put it in their constitution. Wisconsin, you have Baldwin, very liberal, and Johnson, very conservative. I mean, that's part of the pull and push about the American democracy.
And listen to what President Trump has to say, because he was asked about the SAVE Act, because he was asked, hey, what the heck, why would anybody care about requiring voter ID? By the way, I had an interesting discussion with John Fund, who has covered a lot of the stuff on election integrity. And his feeling, he said that about 15% of the people on voter rolls are inaccurate. Some of it intentional, some of it people move or someone pass away and the states don't update it. But 15%, that's a huge amount in the United States in federal elections. That is stunning. But here is President Trump, what he had to say, because he cares a lot about voter integrity.
Numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that there's a movement for getting voter ID. They want voter ID. The population, 98%, want voter ID. They don't want voter ID because they want to cheat at elections. They also want other things. They don't want mail-in ballots. They want to end mail-in ballots, which is corrupt. And one other thing that they're insisting on is proof of citizenship. And the Democrats don't want to give proof of citizenship. They don't want to give voter ID. Think of it. Who wouldn't want proof of citizenship? I ask you, Sam. Who wouldn't want voter ID? And why would you want mail-in ballots if you know it's corrupt? It's a corrupt system. We're the only country in the world that has this system of mail-in ballots. Think of it. The only country in the world that has this system of mail-in ballots, because they cheat. And the fact is they could never get elected if they ever changed. They know it. If you had voter ID, if you had proof of citizenship, they could never win an election. And they know that, and they're fighting to the hilt. And I put this down with men playing in women's sports.
President Trump talking about election integrity. Although it looks like the Democrats are going to block this tooth and nail, there's got to be 60 to pass it in the Senate. And it does not look like it will pass, at least not in the short term in the Senate. But we'll see where it goes. It certainly will be a big battle when Congress comes back in session next week. Meantime, we are talking also about the Nancy Guthrie case. There are so many details. They're looking to find out who bought the backpack, who had the ski mask, who had all these items. And here's former FBI agent and profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole.
In Mary Ellen, the backpack, they also have identified where this backpack was sold. You heard Aaron there at Walmart, $11. How big is that database to find how many people have purchased that? I assume they're going online, they're going store to store.
It's huge. And that will take a while because there's so many stores in Arizona. He didn't have to buy it in Arizona, could have bought it somewhere else. So that's going to take a while. But the beauty of the fact that he could have gotten it at Walmart is they have a tremendous amount of cameras inside their stores. So once they narrow that down to possibly one store, maybe in the area, then they can go back and they can look at the cameras and they can actually see the day that the person
on that day that video would be preserved.
Yeah, they can go back, look at the surveillance footage, figure out who bought it, even if the person paid in cash. You would imagine in this day and age, they can triangulate and say, who bought all these items? Who bought them maybe within a 5-mile radius? Who bought it the same day? I mean, there's a lot of ways to figure it out. Or did somebody's relative buy one unbeknownst to them, for them intentionally? There's a lot of ways to figure this out. 1-800-848-9222. I cannot believe, guys, that here we are, past 2 weeks. You got the FBI, the weight of the FBI, this great law enforcement agency helping the Pima County Sheriff's Office. You got the President of the United States commenting today that if somebody kills Nancy Guthrie, if she's not alive, there will be death penalty attached to it. The president's clearly following this case. The whole country's following this case. And yet, for some reason, it still seems like one big blur to law enforcement. It doesn't seem like they are zeroing in on a suspect, at least not right now. They've pulled in a couple people for questioning, quickly released them. The guy Carlos, remember? The guy who was delivering the package there in Rio Rico, 10 miles from the southern border. They quickly released him. Then on last Friday night, days later, they rounded up all these people, a mother and son and another person in a house. They were released even quicker, I think, than Carlos, or about the same time, even though the SWAT team was all out there in very dramatic fashion. I mean, it's amazing. If these people are like Keystone, cops, maybe that's what's going on. But they have the FBI now. They shouldn't be. And if the perpetrator is like a, low-rung individual that got caught on that Ring camera, well, wouldn't you think that they would have been caught by now? That's what's amazing to me. Sometimes these crimes take a long time to solve. But in this particular case, with all the might and attention and expertise, that's a lot. That's shocking. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Mike on the Lower East Side on line 3. Mike, your thoughts tonight. Go ahead.
I don't really. Yeah, this individual could have rented a car or van, and, that would narrow things down because they have license IDs, photo IDs, and credit cards. So if they rented in Phoenix, or there's like 5 American car rentals right in Nogales, right over the right on Route 19, like going in Mexico. So they could have rented it, came over, and went back. So they need to get the mileage. They got to find out who rented it and the mileage. Okay, and if it shows like 130 miles, 65 and 65 or something like that, it'll pinpoint it a little bit, so it'll narrow things down if they rented it. It's a good shot.
The problem is, Mike, you don't know when they rented it like that. I mean, but who knows? You're right. Anything could pinpoint something, And also, why this house? What do you think happened here, Mike? It's still like there are comments tonight. There's some people who are out there saying they thought it was like a robbery gone wrong. But then quickly the sheriff's office came out and said this burglary theory did not come from us. And if it was burglary, we haven't heard of anything missing. So I'm not sure it was a burglary. I mean, you would know if the house was all disheveled and what items were taken or not taken. You would think you would know that by now. And we haven't heard that. So what do you think happened here?
Oh, really, the gun in front of, where it's positioned, maybe those pants are kind of tight, and I hate to say it like this, but maybe it could have been a woman, and if it wasn't there, you could make out whether it's a guy or a girl. You know what I'm saying?
They're saying it's a guy. They're saying it's a guy who's 5'9".
How do they know it's a guy?
Well, they probably put some AI reconstruction and a whole bunch of other stuff. But you're right. By the way, when I first looked at it, I thought it was a girl. But then I looked at there's nothing on the chest area. And then when you see the person walking, it looks more like a guy. They believe it's a guy. I mean, maybe they're not 100% right, but I would think the FBI has a pretty good pinpoint of this. They say it's a guy. They say he's 5'9", 5'10", average build. You can figure that out. I would imagine by now they know the shoe size. They know the brand of shoes. I mean, it's been a while since that footage came out, and a lot of the details, they probably have a lot more than they're saying, but they're saying it's a guy. But you're right. You don't know when you kind of look at it, the way you see the eyebrows and the eyes. It's a little confusing, Mike. I'm with you. But you know what? You got to check everything. Like you said, check the rent-a-cars. They also, by the way, impounded that silver vehicle. I think it was an SUV on Friday night. I don't think they've returned that SUV, Mike. So who knows? There might be something tied to that too as well. Mike, thank you very much. You always have such good points. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey on line 2. Sandra, your thoughts tonight?
Well, I'm emotionally drained with this. I feel that she's never going to be the same again in her life, no matter what, whether she gets her mother back or not. And I hope she does get her mother back. But then again, people are resilient and they do spring back. And I hope she does, no matter what.
Yeah. And listen, I'm still praying. I'm holding out hope, Sandra. You and I talked about the Elizabeth Smart case.
Oh, yeah.
She was gone. It was either 7 or 9. I mean, it was a long time. And she came back.
She came back.
That's right. So
that's right.
Let's pray that Nancy Guthrie, and if this TMZ letter is right, again, we don't know, but you can't rule it out either. This letter says that I saw her south of the border 5 days ago. Not that
Didn't
that's
I tell you that?
Yeah, you did. You did. I remember. So who knows? You know what?
Who knows?
Yeah,
Oh
you might need to go into a different business and be a psychic, Sandra. You might.
But Donald Trump, what he said, when I heard him say that, I said, "Wow, he means business." But that can frighten the person not to want to cooperate. That was my only concern with that. But look, he said what he had to say. And
but he also might be. He also, I think, Sandra also might be saying that to also inspire people to make sure that she comes home alive. In other words, save yourself. If you had something to do with this, come forward, because if something happens to her and you knew something or you played a role, you could face, a death penalty as the ultimate punishment. We'll find, especially if we don't know if it's death penalty eligible. Hopefully she's back alive and that's not even relevant. But if it were to be, it would have to be crossing state lines or crossing into another country certainly would qualify, all of those things. But I think he meant it more as you better return her alive or else. And maybe that alone might be enough to have someone say, oh, there's a, $100,000 reward. Donald Trump is really putting the heat on. let's return her. So hopefully, listen, let's pray that there's a happy ending. I pray for that every day, Sandra. It's really so frightening. Everybody, we're going to continue with your calls after the break on this busy news night, 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a really powerful and really uplifting and inspiring story from Phoenix, Arizona, where U.S. Air Force veteran Bob Jeffrey and his wife were on a flight home to Phoenix on Sunday after a very important and emotional trip to Vietnam. The veteran went to the country for the first time since he was released as a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. Now, unbeknownst to the veteran and his wife, airline employees had quietly coordinated a special tribute honoring his military service and aviation career. And before the departure, the American Airlines captain took a moment to address the cabin and acknowledge Jeffrey and the important milestone, saying, "We have a very special welcome aboard for a couple of folks who are joining us today." He described how Jeffrey had been shot down during the war and held as a prisoner of war for more than 7 years. The captain thanked Jeffries for his service, sharing all on board with a huge, "We appreciate you. We stand on your shoulders." The moment was a really special connection for everybody involved on that flight. Indeed, a heartfelt moment that prompted a massive applause throughout the entire cabin. By the way, the captain and the flight's first officer, as well as Jeffrey, are all U.S. Air Force veterans. And how powerful that Jeffrey, after 7 years of captivity, returned home and joined American Airlines as a pilot before retiring in 1999. By the way, the tribute continued on the ground at LAX, where the aircraft received a ceremonial water cannon salute before the departure. And then dozens of American Airlines employees gathered in Phoenix to welcome Jeffrey and his wife upon arrival after they completed what the airline described as a coordinated tribute spanning both airports. By the way, American Airlines, we love you. I'm telling you, they did such beautiful work. I've seen them honor many of the Medal of Honor folks. I had the honor one time of going with all the Medal of Honor recipients, taking a flight down from New York to D.C., and just the applause throughout the terminals at the airport and then on the plane. And when they got off in D.C., that was just an amazing, amazing moment. So bravo to this great company. And everybody, help America to never, ever forget. Donate just $11 a month to the absolutely incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They do so much to help our heroes and their families. They are the best. Be sure to check them out at t2t.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to your calls, guys. Let's go to Bob in Wisconsin, line 4. Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Rita, thank you for what you do, speaking truth and breaking, ground that is so important.
Thank you, Bob.
Information for
Thank you,
everyone. The reason I called, though, and may I just say one thing? Give Joaquin a position on your staff. That guy is accurate.
I love it, Bob. We just have a few seconds, but I'm with you on Joaquin. I agree. Go ahead real quick, Bob.
Hey, my cousins called us from Poland because my godkid's birthday was today. And they told me they've been my cousin doesn't speak very good English, but he told me that all the editorials when he goes to Belgium, France, or Germany, when they talk about America, they talk with respect about Trump. But
that's good to know. That's good to know. And I heard that they were criticizing some of the Democratic visitors. Bob, call us tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?